royal appanage, the estate of Abrau-Durso was founded in 1870 by the edict of Tsar Alexander II. To make His Majesty's Domains Administration in charge of the stretch of land along the rivers of Durso and Abrau. By then, sparkling wine had already become the drink of choice among the upper classes. In the late 1800s, Russia brought in more than 500,000 bottles a year from France. Setting up local production was a smart financial move. In today's terms, it might also be described as an important image project. The task of creating the winery fell into the hands of Count Galitzin. He studied viniculture in France, and it was he who invited the best French champagne makers to Abrau. In July 1905, a 30-year-old Frenchman, Victor Dravigny, arrived in Abrau-Durso. It was Dravigny who succeeded in radically changing the taste of Abrau sparkling wines, which in turn have radically changed the Frenchman's destiny. The Russian sparkling wine house, created by Dravigny, quickly won international acclaim, while its creator found his personal happiness on a small piece of land of Abrau-Durso. His 5 children were born here. What exactly Dravigny did to the Russian sparkling wine to make it taste so good remains a mystery. He seemed to follow traditional manufacturing technique, the Méthode Traditionelle, which hasn't changed much since. First, the bottles are stored horizontally for second fermentation. Then, they are placed onto special racks called pupitres for riddling. Rumour had it that Dravigny possessed a secret ingredient. Here's what one of his contemporaries wrote. Russian sparkling wine has improved dramatically owing to a French manager who had brought a new fungus from the Champagne. In the early 1900s in Russia, fungus meant yeast. It's quite possible that Dravigny had used some special kind of yeast. But equally important was the fact that he'd implemented a systematic approach to winemaking. Soon, locally produced sparkling wines were good enough to be served at the Tsar's request and at the request of the aristocracy in the capital. Victor Dravigny provided Nicholas II with his own sparkling wine. In return, he received a gold watch and a golden cigarette case encrusted with a diamond eagle. Here is the original box that holds the cigarette case. Let's open it to take a look at the case itself. My grandfather received it as a present from your Tsar Nicholas II. If you don't believe me, here's the certificate. It's authentic. Abrau-Durso sparkling wines got high marks not only in Russia, but all around the world. There was a rising demand for it abroad. Here's just one shipping order as an example. It's dated 1906. On instruction of Royal Domains Administration, please prepare for shipment 10,000 bottles of sparkling brut and the equal amount of our most dry variety to be shipped to Mr. Schultz in the USA. But the real breakthrough in export occurred 60 years later. At the end of the 1960s, a new brand was developed, especially for export, targeting the US market. The name of the brand sounded like an accented Russian, Nazdrovya. In fact, we never say it like this when raising a glass, but rather Vaše zdarovye, or Tvoje zdarovye, meaning here's to you. Na zdarovye means you're welcome. Most likely it was marketing people in the US who came up with the name. You know, it was made in Hollywood, when somebody playing a Russian raises his glass and says, Na zdrovya. This is the state farm, Savkhoz, where the famous Sovietskaya Shampanskaya, the pride of our winemakers, was born. The local brand of sparkling wine outperformed most of its world-famous counterparts. In the 1970s, Pepsi-Cola was getting ready to open its plant in Novorossiysk. Donald Kendall, the president of PepsiCo, came to attend the event. He was invited to Abrau-Durso, tasted the local sparkling wine, and he fell in love with it. PepsiCo and Abrau-Durso signed a trade agreement, and the export of Nazdrovya sparkling wines started in earnest. Launch parties were arranged in 4 major cities: Washington, New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. In addition to the US, Abrau-Durso sparkling wine was shipped to Canada, Brazil, Mexico, Italy, Belgium, and the countries of Eastern Europe. You may find it hard to believe, But Soviet sparkling wine has become one of the handful of non-oil and gas export items the Soviet Union was able to put on the Western market. Just like any other high-quality sparkling wine, Abrau-Durso is made by blending several kinds of grapes. The vineyards are still here. Chardonnay grows here, Pinot Blanc, further down, Pinot Noir a little higher up, and Sauvignon on the other side of the hill. The Soviet Union was known to produce the highest number of warheads, but also the finest quality sparkling wines. In 1975, the oldest champagne house, Moët, acquired a license to make sparkling wines using the Soviet reservoir technique. That year, Nazdrovje hit the Western market. In the West, Abrau-Durso wines got high praise and high price tags. Take a look at this menu for an American restaurant. $14 for a glass of Moët et Chandon, and a glass of Nazdrovje, the same. The 21st century marked the beginning of the global expansion of the famous sparkling wine brand. In 2006, the manufacturing facilities of Abrau-Durso were acquired by the SVL Group. Since then, Abrau-Durso wines are being produced using the most advanced modern technology, while rigorously preserving the traditional technique put in place by Victor Dravigny. In honor of Alexander II, the founder of the Russian sparkling wine house and a fine wine connoisseur himself, a new brand bears his name. The making of Alexander II wine is a sacred process. Everything is important, as even the smallest detail may leave its mark on the taste. The technology itself, the mood of the winemaker, the kind of water used for irrigation, and the angle of the vineyards in relation to the sun. One of the most important things in winemaking is terroir, a unique combination of natural environment from temperature to the windrows. Terroir is the main factor that defines the taste of the future wine. Ask any wine expert and he'll tell you that the Abrau-Durso is malaceous, which means soft and rich with calcium and clay. It's the soil that makes Abrau-Durso an as good, if not better, region for sparkling winemaking than even in the region of Champagne itself. Alexander II is made using Méthode Traditionelle. The bottles of Alexander II spend at least 3 years aging in the cellars of Abrau-Durso. After keeping the bottles at the pupitre, a process known as riddling or remuage, it's time to get rid of the sediments. One of the key steps in making Alexander II is dégorgeage, or disgorging. This process is needed to remove the sediment that has clung to the cork. Nowadays, it's done by freezing a small amount of liquid in the neck of a bottle. Now, let's use the pincers to undo the bracket. The pressure inside the bottle is extremely high, about 6 atmospheres, and occasionally a bottle may burst in your hands. That's why disgorging is always performed in a mask, and there's a special machine into which you shoot the cork. Finally, the wine is here. Alexander II is the wine that will not only acquire its unique taste, but will become part of the centuries-old chronicle of a great sparkling wine house. If anything, Alexander II gives us the taste of history like no other sparkling wine in the world. 100 years have passed since Victor Dravigny set his foot on the Abrau-Durso soil, and now another great Frenchman follows in his steps. His name is Hervé Gestin, and he is an extraordinary enologist and winemaker. History repeats itself. Frenchmen are coming back to Abrau-Durso to continue the tradition of unique sparkling winemaking. Alexander II is not your average bottle of sparkling wine. It's a chance to feel the taste of 140 years of history of the country and the world. History full of bitter losses and sweet victories, just like the tingling taste of Abrau-Durso.